Welcome and good day. Thanks for joining me. My name is Rod. I'm an employment specialist with Next Steps Employment Center, located right around the corner from where you are. So I'm glad that you're here today. We're going to be talking about a very exciting job search topic that I know that you're going to appreciate. And before we start, I just want to say thanks for spending the time with us in regards to moving forward with regards to some of your job search strategies and concepts and just all that kind of good stuff. We're juggling a lot of balls right now, and this is not an easy time, but it's important that we share good content and information that's going to be helpful in order to have you move forward based on your pursuits. So this is an interesting little topic entitled Work at Home. And I think it's gaining a lot of popularity, a lot of momentum for a variety of different reasons. But I mean, it's something that a lot of people do ask us all the time, you know, in terms of what are some strategies, what are some ideas in terms of considering working from a home office or home environment. So we hope to answer and give you some resources today as we go through this little presentation. So let's talk about this platform. You're familiar with YouTube. Very, very straightforward. And one of the things that I want to call your attention to right now is sort of that progress bar down towards the bottom. As we move forward over the next short while dealing with this content, I'm going to encourage you to put me on pause or hold at any given time so that you can make the appropriate notes. So again, at times I have a tendency to talk with guests up to about 180 simply because I'm rather excited about the topic. So I'm going to encourage you to, again, put me on hold at any given time so that you can make the appropriate notes and then hit the restart or resume button when you're ready, and then we're good to go. So of course, I'm going to encourage you to make a few little notes as we move along. There's some good content, some good material that I want to share with you, and I think you're going to find it very, very helpful. So let's take a look at some of the session topics or areas that we want to look at today, dealing with this exciting workshop, dealing with working from a home environment or something similar. We want to talk about pros or some of the benefits of remote work. It's very, very important to understand the benefits so that you and I can make much more of an informed decision moving forward. So that's one thing that we want to talk about. Certainly when you think about the pros, there's also cons, right? There's some disadvantages of working from home. And we want to talk a little bit about that as we move forward. Beyond the pros and cons, we also want to take a look at what are some of the common types of work at home positions that are popular today? Because when we talk a little bit about some of these common positions, you might say, geez, I never thought about that. Or you know what, that's funny because my nephew Jonathan does that. So there's lots of different things that you and I can be involved in working from a home office environment. So we're going to take a look at some common types of positions or opportunities that are in demand right now. Based on sort of the interest that you have in your expertise and so on and so forth. Beyond taking a look at those jobs, we want to take a look at some job search tips. I have about 5 or 6 that comes to mind that I'd love to share with you because job searching for remote opportunities is a little different than always spending quality time on Indeed and some other similar types of common platforms that people often utilize. So we're going to talk a little bit about some tips and some ideas to assist you. Beyond that, we're going to move towards conclusion. We're going to get you to think about what are your next steps based on the content that we've looked at. So we're going to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about next steps. Of course, your feedback is very, very important to us. I'm going to provide you with my email address towards the end of the session today. And I'd love to hear back from you in regards to, hey, Rod, you know what, this made a lot of good sense. I really like this little section. Or you may have some suggestions where we can tweak it. We're always looking for good ideas in terms of things that we can do a little better. And again, the truth is we're working on some really valuable content and sharing it using YouTube and similar types of concepts. So we want to hear from you. We want to provide content that's appropriate to your needs in order to have you continue to move forward. So we're going to talk a little bit about feedback. So that is something that we're going to move towards, and that concludes sort of the overview of the workshop today. So let's get at it. Okay, let's take a look at some pros, because again, there's certainly some benefits and advantages from working remotely, and let's take a look at some of the common benefits. So I think it's fair to say that there is, for the most part, an increased level of flexibility. I think that when you and I are working from home, we can juggle a few little things, and therefore it creates an opportunity to be a little bit more flexible. Increased productivity. It's funny because working from home, sometimes I find myself working more in the evening. I'm working on weekends, or maybe I have a thought that I wanted to make sure I make note of. So I run up to the office, my little space in my little house, and I just make some notes. So it's all related to being productive. I guess it speaks to flexibility. And for a lot of people, you know what, it really does improve one's morale for a variety of different reasons. So I mean, that's certainly one of the pros or benefits that I wanted to share with you. Because of the lack of travel, or the less travel that we're applying, I guess, it really impacts and reduces the carbon footprint, right? Um, there's lots of greenhouse gases that are generated based on sort of a normal type of environment, working in different companies and so on and so forth. So when people work remotely or from the home, sometimes it impacts you know, the carbon footprint. I think another pro is that companies, for the most part, they save some money. Think about you know, the amount of overhead that companies often talk about. That should be reduced ideally. Just, you know, other office related costs. It could be real estate, just, you know, that whole area. And it's funny because even from an employer's perspective, they see that there's less health related issues, and therefore they save some money maybe on benefits and that kind of good stuff, and even people, you know, time away from work and so on and so forth. So it's quite interesting. I know that some employers often talk about the chatter and the gossip that happens around the water cooler in the kitchen. So sometimes when you and I are working remotely, that doesn't happen to the same level, if you know what I'm saying. So therefore it also relates to saving a few dollars. I think, and we talked about this a few moments ago, that people often talk about there's a little bit more work-life balance, and it sort of relates and fits some of their personal pursuits and endeavors. So there's a variety of different pros and benefits that we can consider in terms of working remotely. Let's take a look at some of the cons and certainly some of the disadvantages. Well, sometimes when people work from the home, they don't have all the technology that they're used to at the office. They may not have a scanner. They may not have all of their computers, desktops, laptops, all hardwired right into the net. They use Wi-Fi, and sometimes that even causes some issues depending on some of the tools and things that people are using from sort of an office or home environment. So a lot of people have their cell phone and they think, I'm ready. I can work from home. I've got my cell phone. And I think that's true in a lot of regards. But I think that, you know, when you think about all the different tools that you have in your office, it sometimes doesn't compare to sort of just using your smart device. I think that when we look at a variety of different jobs and industries, they do require in-person work. I think of construction trades, the plumbers, our gas fitters, our all, you know, the bricklayers, they need to be there doing that kind of work. It's pretty tough to do that when you're in your office. I think of education sometimes. I think of the healthcare work and that kind of area. I think that there's a lot of jobs that do require somebody to be there in person for obvious reasons. However, when I think of some of those occupations and jobs and industries, I think of education, I think of healthcare, a lot of technology has really impacted the delivery of service. So things are changing so quickly, and it's very, very interesting. Another disadvantage is that people may not feel comfortable working from home or in a remote sort of environment. It's not for everybody. And it really, again, depends on the type of job that one's looking at, their own personality, and a few other little things. I don't want to suggest that this is, you know, this is the way to make things happen. For some people, it's going to work very, very well. However, for some, it may not be something that they want to consider. let's take a look at some popular opportunities and positions that people often do from a remote sort of environment. So these are some common types of positions that are in demand now. And I know that when you take a look at some of these, you're saying, oh, geez, again, my uncle was very, very successful as a graphic designer, as an example. So this is an individual that obviously has some very good skill sets around using some specific software. It could be Adobe Photoshop, it could be Adobe Illustrator as an example. There's lots of specific software that a graphic designer would use in terms of developing logos for some startups and new companies or other clients that they may be connected with, developing t-shirts, business cards. There's lots of things that a graphic designer is passionate about and very good at in terms of assisting different corporations and employers, small and large, of course. Web designer. Because things are so different today, there's a lot of startups. A lot of people are starting their own little business, and they need an expert or somebody with the know-how to develop some good website content. So web designers are always very, very busy in regards to assisting companies with their website, developing it, building it, maintaining it, all kinds of different things a web designer do. And these people are very, very busy. And quite often, as you know, they work remotely. Another common work at home position is a video editor. I mean, I think of myself, I've got a little drone that I'd love to take out into the environment and towards a lake and some nature. And I love to do little clips. And sometimes, you know, I come home and I've got lots of little clips, but in terms of putting it all together and then adding music and removing this little section and whatnot, and having somebody actually edit that video or to those different clips to come up with a story that I experienced today or over a holiday or whatever, that's unbelievable. And I mean, I don't have those skills. So that's another type of job that people do find very, very rewarding. And they do it not only, you know, from a hobby perspective, but certainly as a professional piece. I think of weddings, I think of all kinds of different opportunities that somebody uses and connects with a video editor. A sales copywriter, you know, it's interesting. I have a friend, her name is Michelle, and she works for Nabisco, and she's a sales copywriter. And this is an individual that basically generates text for different, I guess, you know, advertising and promotion types of things. Like she does billboards. She works with Nabisco. I don't know if I mentioned that, but, you know, there's lots of different text that she has to put together in terms of promoting a cereal, a new cereal or whatever. And I often get a little bit of a chuckle in terms of the words, the persuasive words that she uses to convince you and I as a consumer to think about this product. So it's very interesting to get an idea of some of the interesting work that she's involved in. A course creator, you know, this is something that's interesting. And I know that we meet with a lot of professionals that come into Next Steps Employment Centers throughout the Greater Toronto area. And they've been working in certain jobs for years, and they're very, very, they have a lot of expertise. And you know what, I often thought about, you know, sharing some ideas that based on the expertise, maybe it's negotiating skills, maybe they've been involved in that, maybe they've done some mediation, maybe they've done some supervision of teams or whatever, and they've been very, very successful. They've won awards and whatnot over their period of time, and now they're in between jobs looking for their next opportunity. But you know what, it's funny because if you can spend some time identifying the areas of expertise that that person has and developing a little course, a little syllabus that actually you could launch on websites that people could actually learn from that kind of experience and expertise that they have. And there's money and remuneration that could be gained based on that kind of platform. So that's sort of an interesting one, I think, in the big picture, and something that we certainly wanted to share. Somebody that's an ad manager, obviously this is an individual that has some skills and expertise working with, let's say Google, the Google platform, Facebook, social media, or whatever. And they develop ads, obviously, and promotion and marketing, different concepts. So again, this is something that, you know, a lot of small startup companies need somebody to generate different promotion and ads And this is an interesting little position here. Editor, you and I know people that love to author, they love to write things and so on, and sometimes they aspire to actually publishing or at least moving towards authoring a book. But as part of that process, you need to have an editor involved, right? And this is a person obviously that has a very, very keen eye to, the details and so on and so forth. So they have a good command of the English language, their grammar, their spelling skills are unbelievable. And what they spend some time doing, obviously, is looking at what the author initially came up with in sort of a draft format. They're looking for mistakes and other suggestions that they can share with the author in terms of trying to do things a little better. And they actually, for every word that they change or they catch sort of in terms of a grammar or maybe a spelling mistake, they get paid between 2 and 5 cents per word. And it was interesting to understand that an average book has about 100,000 words in that document. So, I mean, depending on how things go, that could be very, very lucrative also from sort of an opportunity to work from home. Then we also have a membership site creator. And this person is involved working with digital marketing. So somebody that has that kind of experience and training may be very, very successful in that area. And then I think of lots of opportunities around customer service. There's agents that work in call centers. They work for hospitality companies and so on and so forth. Every time that I call a financial institution or again, a travel site or something on this lines, quite often the individual that's involved in the discussion is at home, working and in a very comfortable environment, and they're very, very happy for a lot of the benefits and some of the pros that we talked about a few minutes ago. So there's lots of opportunities in this area also, as you can appreciate. Somebody that enjoys researching online, there's opportunities. Data entry professionals. We meet a lot of individuals that are very, very good at data entry. And again, if I think about people that can do this type of work from a remote or a home environment, boy, oh boy, the sky's the limit, I think, in a lot of regards. You just have to make those connections and see what we can do. Executive assistants, online business assistants, and managers, they're in demand basically either in the office, but again, there's a lot of options and a lot of things that somebody can do from a remote sort of perspective. I think as somebody that, is like a transcriptionist, that could be done from the home environment. There's so many different opportunities that somebody could reflect on in regards to working in that sort of remote or home environment. Let's take a look at some websites that may be helpful in terms of looking for remote opportunities. Again, I'm glad that you're putting me on pause and you're making some notes with the scrap paper that you have close by. Let's take a look at some of those websites. So here's one here, flexjobs.com. You can see it's one of the largest and the most popular platform to find remote work. So after you sign up, and it doesn't cost money, of course, it's just going through the normal registration process, but you can search for remote jobs by career field. So, based on your expertise, your experience and so on and so forth, you can find remote opportunities in different career areas. So I think that that's a very helpful aspect of this type of platform. So, if it doesn't matter if you're looking for part-time work, full-time, or even you want to be a freelancer, that makes a lot of good sense moving forward during these interesting times. Let's take another look at another website here. And again, feel free to put me on stop here while you write down some specific website information. But here's the one here that also relates to Canadian opportunities. Again, they're remote, and they, for the most part, they're opportunities that you can work with in sort of that home office environment. And again, as you can see, they're both part-time, full-time opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. Now, if you're looking at more of a freelance opportunity, this is a good website. It's called Upwork.com. Look at this, 12 million registered freelancers and with 5 million registered clients. So a freelancer is somebody that, may be working with a company or several companies and doing specific types of tasks. So again, maybe if I think about that graphic designer, that web designer or whatever, you don't spend necessarily, years working for that same company. Quite often you spend some time, you develop their product, you give them some advice or whatever it is, and then you move on to another customer. And if you're working with, let's say, 8 or 10 or 15 customers or employers or clients doing similar types of things, then this would be referred to as more of a freelance opportunity. And this website here is going to be very, very helpful moving forward. Here's another Canadian website. It's called freelancer.ca. This one I love because it's a marketplace where employers and employees are able to find each other. So this site allows employers to post work for members of the site who actually they place bids in sort of that competitive tendering process. So I think this is another interesting little platform that I'm going to encourage you to take a look at. So again, you know, you need to think about the services and the products and how you can help different startups, small and large companies in terms of unique sort of niche areas. So of course, there's some common websites like Indeed and so on and so forth. But again, you know, if you put in some keywords or identify these specific websites that you see in front of you, these also relate to remote jobs. I'm going to give you some keywords in a few minutes that when you're using Indeed, when you're using Monster and so on and so forth, you want to include some keywords because that's going to generate some results that speak to remote opportunities, working from home and so on and so forth. The second one here, remoters.net, is another good website that you can take a look at. I'm hoping that you're using your LinkedIn for good effect, not only for, you know, connecting with others and so on, but also to search remote opportunities. So again, there's lots of things that you and I could look at with respect to identifying opportunities that may work very, very well for you for a variety of different reasons. Glassdoor.ca. We use that for research when you're looking at different companies and researching salary calculators and all kinds of good stuff. But again, they have options in terms of helping individuals look for remote opportunities. So again, some good websites that I wanted to share with you. Another company, it's an agency, it is called, let me make sure I have a few ideas here that I want to share. Yeah, Kelly Services is something that I want you to do a little bit of research on because it's an agency, as I mentioned, it's a very reputable one. And quite often they have remote opportunities. So I want you to think about that. Another company, if you're interested in working within the travel business or the hospitality area, I'm going to say in the big picture, Hopper, Hopper. It's a travel company. It's has its headquarters in Montreal. So again, they're always looking for people that are interested in working remotely, and they have opportunities all the time. So that's maybe a couple little things that I wanted to mention to you. Let's take a look at 6 little job search tips that will assist you in regards to looking for remote opportunities. So when you're researching on Indeed and Monster and so on and so forth, include keywords like remote, virtual, completely distributed. These are some keywords that I want you to include when you're using those popular websites that people often use to look for opportunities. Because when you look at the results, they're going to be a little bit more related to working from home. Those remote opportunities are going to surface a little faster than some of the other ways that we often think about. Of course, you want to use some of those job search engines that we talked about a few minutes ago in terms of looking for remote opportunities. So we talked a little bit about some search engines that I'm going to get you to certainly consider and use and go from there. Another tip that I want to share with you is tapping into your local market. So, you know what, sometimes you and I are going to different employers, corporations, government sort of websites, and we're looking for employment opportunities. So again, make sure that when you do some research and you're searching for different types of jobs, make sure you use some of those keywords that we talked about a few moments ago. But don't forget to look at, you know, when you're looking at different companies, there's got to be some remote opportunities that they provide in the big picture. They're not as common, obviously, necessarily, depending on the type of company you're looking for, but it's something that you want to consider. The other thing is you want to consider searching niche career sites. because I'm thinking, you know what? I think of idealist.org. So let me spell that for you. idealist.org. This is a not-for-profit employment website that you may be able to find work, again, from dealing with working at home and sort of that remote aspect. So there is different specific career websites that are specific to these types of jobs. And we've talked a little bit about that also. Another little tip that I want to share with you is don't just job search from home. You've got a very, very good network. You've got lists of people that you know, all your family and friends and all the professional people that you have in your life. I know, and I'm hoping that for hours each day when you're looking for work, you're connecting with these people, because they tell us that 80 to 85% of all the jobs are not advertised. It's through referral, it's through networking, it's connecting with other people. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Exactly. So you need to continue to really tap into your network and massage that, so there's going to be more opportunities. And when you're connecting with your family and friends and bringing them up to date in regards to, hey, I've got a new resume, I've got these great little contact cards, I've done this, I've taken some courses online, I'm watching these great little videos from Next Steps Employment Center. So tell them what's going on. They're going to feel pretty excited about what you're doing in terms of your situation. And it's all about connecting with people, as you know, today. So again, share with your network some of the interesting and cool things that you're thinking about. And, you know, bouncing ideas off of them, sometimes that actually brings you to a different level that's actually going to be more helpful in the big picture. Be smart how you use freelance websites. So as we've discussed, freelance opportunities are a little bit more shorter in terms of their overall sort of employment piece, because you're working on small little aspects, perhaps working with a company, a small, large firm. It could be a startup company that needs just a little bit of work in terms of developing this, or helping them out with some contact cards or business cards in terms of the layout and the design or whatever. You're not going to be with them for years necessarily, right? So you just have to be a little careful in terms of using, you know, some freelance sites, because it's like anything else. You just have to be cautious, I suppose, right? So I hope that you made some notes in terms of some tips dealing with seeking remote opportunities. So let's talk about this document. This is going to refer to an action card. So what I need you to do is grab a scrap piece of paper, if you would. And I'm going to get you to divide up into 3 little sections. So let's identify one section. We'll call it Start. So throw Start someplace on your document, your blank document, and you have a little bit of space, maybe 5 or 6 little lines underneath that section. Then you want to have another section entitled Stop. So throw Stop in the middle of your document. Again, maybe another, you know, you have 5 or 6 lines underneath that. And then you've got a Continue section. So what we want you to do is, and remember to use pause when you're thinking about some thoughts here. But what I want you to do is think about all of the material and the resources and the websites and the suggestions that we've talked about over the last few minutes. And on this document, your action card, what I want you to do is think of 3 things you're going to start doing today or even tomorrow in regards to considering looking for work on a remote basis or working from your home or whatever you decide. So what are 3 things that you're going to do? Maybe you're going to look at some of those websites that we talked about. Maybe you're going to register for one of those websites. Maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to connect with your network. There's lots of different things that you can do based on some of the content. You wouldn't be listening to this presentation unless it grabbed your attention initially and so on. So what are 3 things that you're going to start to do today or perhaps tomorrow? What are 3 things you're going to stop doing based on all the content that we've covered? I don't know about you, but sometimes, not very often, but sometimes I get an idea, oh, I want to think about doing this, or I do some research and I say, it's pretty interesting, but you know, I procrastinate. I don't move forward. I don't even do some of the simple things because sometimes I'm lazy, right? I'm human. So what are 3 things that you should stop doing in regards to sort of this whole mission that we're on? And what are 3 things you're going to continue doing? Because the truth is you're doing some great things right now. again, you wouldn't be looking at this video. You wouldn't be looking at all the other great content and videos that we have on YouTube in order to help you with your current job search. So what are 3 things you're going to continue doing, because you're doing some great things. So put that down on that little scrap piece of paper. Again, I'm glad that you put me on pause while you're working on this, because what you've really done by working on this activity, and you've got 8 or 9 things total on the document, you've really started to take a look at your next steps. We want you to share this with your employment advisor, your job developer, your the connection, the professional that you're working with at your local employment center with Next Steps, because they want to hear how engaged and where you're at, because that's where they can assist you and have a discussion and give you some ideas as you continue to move forward. We want to stay in touch. We want to support you. That's what we're here for. You've got our contact numbers. If you don't, I'm going to give you my email address in a few moments, and I can hook you up with that professional at that specific site that you're connected with. So I'm glad that you've identified a few little things as you continue to move forward. Now, I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we'd love to hear back from you. Your feedback is so important, and we appreciate it. So what I've done here is I'm going to ask you to create a speedy memo, and I'm going to explain that shortly, but you also notice I've given you my email address. So again, put me on pause, capture my email address, and I'm going to ask you to send me a speedy memo, and that's very simple. Just think of 8 to 10, 15 words that describe what you thought about today's presentation, and send that feedback to me. It's important because, again, we want to tweak things. We want to make some other content that's really going to assist you moving forward. So your feedback is very important to us, and we look forward to that. So thanks for sending me a little speedy memo. And again, as we move towards conclusion, I just want to say thanks. We're in some interesting times, and we want to make sure that you and your loved ones are safe and again, continue to be well. It's very important. We also want you to stay in touch. We want you to be connected with your organization in the Next Steps Employment Center. All of the professionals at your location, at your office, they're very excited about sending this kind of content and information to you folks, but they'd love you to be connected. Again, if you don't have their telephone number, send me that email. I will connect you with that person that you're connected with, and they will call you. We're here for you. We're going to get through this together. So folks, again, thank you very much for your attention today. Hope you learned a couple little points. This whole area in terms of remote work, working from your home, is very exciting, and it's only gaining a lot of momentum as we speak. So again, thanks very much. Take a look at some of the other recorded sessions that we have available through Next Steps Employment Center, and that's also brought to you by the YouTube platform, and you're going to enjoy that content. So until the next presentation, thanks everybody. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.